Hi, the Mudbrooker here. Well, it's been a while since I've been making videos, but being just so essential, I really haven't had time to do much lately. But I find myself with a few minutes and I'm going to make something called tiger bread. Tiger bread is a Dutch recipe that I heard about from an English fellow named Irate Alex. He has a YouTube channel which I recommend you check out. Spends most of his time laughing at stupid people doing stupid things on the internet. But anyway, as always, the first and most important ingredient of any recipe is alcohol. And today I'm going to have me some grog. Grog, in this case at least, is basically a blend of brandy and peppermint schnapps. So you end up with peppermint brandy. I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon: Benedict Riggers, Kay's Kist, Damian Bamer, Dan Sturgill, Joy Jones, Leo, Randy Dorn, Rudy Belvano, Sue Beck, Theodore Engelke, and Valentine Toman. Here's to you guys, and thank you much for your support. That's good. Now, tiger bread is basically a bread with a yeast and rice flour coating on it, which gets crispy and crackly. And you can use basically any sort of basic bread to start with. I'm going to use a sourdough type recipe that I've really had good luck with and really like. So I'll show you that first. And I do it by weight in grams, much as I hate to. But you start off with 300 grams of water. I screwed that up. I'll be right back. I forgot to zero my scale, so I had no idea how much weight the bowl was and how much water I had. Anyway, 300 grams of water. There we go. 300 grams of water. 350 grams of sourdough starter. This has been fed and is rising along pretty good. So we'll throw that in. Give it a little stir first just to be good. Nice and foamy and bubbly. There we go, 350 grams of that. Let me zero my scale again. 800 grams of flour. This is bread flour, but you can use all-purpose if you like. $785. Alright, and there's 800. And 10 grams of salt. Okay, now I use yeast in my sourdough bread because it makes it rise up faster, and I can do this in one sitting instead of letting it ferment overnight in the fridge and letting it rise again. So I'm going to give this about 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. There's a fair bit of wild yeast in my sourdough starter, so that's going to really help rise too. And I'm also going to add about 2 tablespoons of softened butter, which is about all I got left. I'll give this a little bit of a stir just to wet everything down. Then I'll put it on my mixer and let it knead for about 15 minutes. You don't need to mix it really well at this point, just enough to wet everything down good so that you don't get a big cloud of flour when you start kneading it on the mixer. And that should be good enough. I'll be back once this is all kneaded out. Alright, my dough has kneaded out. It's nice and soft and smooth. And I'll just roll it into a ball. Set it aside for a minute. Dump a little bit of olive oil in my mixing bowl. Just, a teaspoon or two. Just enough to oil the inside lightly, so that my bread doesn't stick as it rises. And just drop her in there. Flop it around a little bit so that it gets coated with oil lightly. Cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit until it rises and at least doubles in size. That's going to take a while, so I'll shut the camera off and I'll come back when this is ready to go and we're ready to make the topping for our tiger bread. Okay, I'm back. Our bread has risen quite a bit. I'm going to let it rise a little bit more while we make the topping for our tiger bread. First, you'll need 1 cup of rice flour. I'm using a whole wheat or a whole grain brown rice flour, but any rice flour will work, I guess. Cup of rice flour, 2 teaspoons of yeast, a goodish pinch of salt, probably a teaspoon, maybe a little more, about a teaspoon, a tablespoon of sugar to feed the yeast and get it nice and foamy before we put the topping to use. I'm going to mix these together a little bit. Give it a bit of a stir there. And now I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil. I'm going to use olive oil. You can use vegetable oil or any other oil that you like. Yeah. I guess I hadn't opened this before. And it's going to fight me every inch of the way because I am on camera. There. Wretched thing. Anyway, tablespoon of oil and 3/4 of a cup of warm water. Get these out of the way. Mix these up nice and thoroughly. And we'll let this sit for about 20 minutes to let the yeast work a bit so that it gets nice and light and foamy. Okay, everything's all stirred in good. And I'll be back in 20 minutes. It's been 20 minutes. Our rice flour topping mixture has foamed up nicely and risen a bit. Our bread dough is more than ready to go and sticking a little bit to my plastic. I hate it when it does that. Let go, let go. Like that. And punch it down. I don't need my bread a whole lot. I just basically shape it is all and call it good. So I suppose you call this a no-knead bread. Put it into my little cast iron casserole here. It's been lightly greased with butter. Just pat it down, stretch it around a little bit so it's nice and filled the pan. and leveled out in the bottom. And then we pour on the rice mixture on top of it. There we go, pretty much got her all. And brush it around so that it's got a nice even coat all the way around. Now I'm going to cover this up and let it sit for about 10 more minutes while my oven heats up. And then we will bake it for about an hour at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So, we'll see you later. My oven is all heated up. This has been rising for about 10 or 12 minutes. And now I'm going to put it in the oven. Like I said, 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 50 to 60 minutes. And I'll see you when it's done. And here we are, just out of the oven. Nice, fresh, hot tiger bread. Although if you ask me, looks more like a Jaguar. Let's see if we can get this out. Oh yeah, it comes right out. Get this out of the way. A nice Dutch recipe by way of an Englishman, Irate Alex. I'll leave a link to his channel down below. And if you go over there and you like what he does and you subscribe, tell him I sent you, and with any luck that'll annoy the hell out of him. Anyway, the coating on this is slightly sweet between the sugar and the rice flour. And it's very crispy, very crunchy. And once this cools off and I actually eat some of it, it's going to be great. That is all I have to show you for today. Go ahead and give this a try. I think you'll love it. A little bit smaller loaf, it might give a little bit better result because I wouldn't have had to bake it so long and it wouldn't have browned this quite as much. Even so, that's still really good. So, there's your Dutch tiger bread, even though it looks more like a Jaguar to me. See you later.